Helen's hands were shaking. She stood in front of Emeka's big glass desk, high up on the 25th floor, with Lagos spread out behind him like a crowded map cars crawling on Ozumba Mbadiwe, yellow buses honking, the blue water of the lagoon shining under the hot sun. Inside the office, it was quiet. Too quiet. Emeka did not look like the friendly boss she knew. His jaw was tight, his eyes were cold. He held a brown file in his hand. Her file. "Helen," he said slowly, his deep voice filling the room. "I got you fired." The words dropped like a stone. For a moment, she could not breathe. Her heart started beating fast in her chest. Her throat felt dry. She blinked quickly, but the tears still filled her eyes, hot and sharp. Fired?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Emeka looked at her without blinking. "HR has your letter already. Today is your last day." A single tear rolled down Helen's cheek before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away with the back of her hand, embarrassed. She was always strong in front of him, always calm, always professional. But today, something broke. She wasn't thinking about her salary. She wasn't thinking about her rent. She wasn't even thinking about how she would tell her mother. All she could think was, "I'm losing him." Her boss, her secret crush, the man she respected more than anyone. Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard, fighting the storm in her chest, then looked up into his eyes. "Sir," she began, voice small but honest. "I don't work here because of—" Emeka's heart jumped. But before she could finish her sentence, we go back to how it all started. That morning, Lagos woke up with noise and hurry, like it always did. Keke drivers shouted. Hawkers carried bread on their heads. Cars pressed their horns like they were talking to each other. Helen stood at the gate of Imatrix Holdings, the tall glass building where she worked as PA to the famous CEO, Emeka Okafor. She checked her wristwatch. 6:45 a.m. She smiled to herself. Early again. Most staff came by 8 a.m. But Helen always came early. Not because anyone forced her. She just liked everything to be ready before Emeka stepped in. She swiped her card, greeted the sleepy security man, and walked into the cool reception. The air smelled like coffee and new paper. The cleaners were still wiping the floors. "Good morning, Auntie Fati," Helen said softly to one of the cleaners. "Good morning, my daughter," the woman smiled. "God bless you." Helen took the elevator up, went straight to Emeka's office, and turned on the lights. The room was large and bright, with glass walls, a long table for meetings, and a huge window looking over Victoria Island. On his desk, everything had a place: laptop in the center, pen holder on the right, files lined up neatly. Helen dropped her bag on the small chair at the corner and got to work. She arranged the files for the 9 a.m. meeting, printed the agenda, checked his emails, cancelled a lunch he no longer needed, confirmed a Zoom call with a client in London. Then she walked to the small shelf where she kept an extra mug only for him. Black, simple, with the words, "Focus and Build." She smiled faintly. She had ordered that mug online with her own money, the first time Emeka told her his motto. He never knew she bought it herself. He just came one morning and saw it on his table. He had touched the words with his finger and said quietly, "Nice." Since that day, he used it every day. She poured his coffee no sugar, just a little milk. Just how he liked it. As she moved around his office, she felt something warm in her chest. It was not just a job. She liked the work, yes. She liked the respect. She liked that people trusted her with big things. But what she liked most was him. At 7:30 a.m., Emeka walked into the office with 2 bodyguards behind him. Dark blue suit, white shirt, no tie, wristwatch that could probably buy 3 cars. The workers at the reception straightened up quickly. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Mr. Emeka." He nodded silently, face serious. People always said he was scary, that he never smiled. Some called him stone-face behind his back. But Helen had seen something different. She had seen him stay in the office till midnight to finish a deal, eyes red, tie off, hair rough. She had seen him quietly tell HR to pay for a staff's mother's surgery and then warn them not to mention his name. She had seen him stand at the window on some nights, arms folded, looking at the city like he was fighting a battle only he could see. Inside the elevator, Emeka pressed the button for the 25th floor and closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of one thing. Helen. She was the only person in the company who could walk into his office with bad news and he would not shout. The only one who knew when to speak and when to stay silent. The only one who could remind him of a meeting he forgot. And he would not feel insulted. She was also the only one who made his heart beat faster when she smiled. This is a problem, he told himself. He was 32, a billionaire, the head of a big company. He had dated before, but those relationships felt empty. Many girls loved the car, the money, the lifestyle. Not him. He had promised himself that he would never fall for someone who only loved his bank account. But lately, whenever Helen walked into his office with her calm face and soft voice, he felt something he did not want to name. The elevator door opened. He walked into the corridor. Staff hurried to greet him. "Good morning, sir." "Morning, sir." He gave short nods and pushed open his office door. Helen stood up at once. "Good morning, sir," she said with a small smile. "Your coffee is ready. Your 9 a.m. meeting with the tech team is confirmed. And your mother called. She said she will call again by noon." Emeka's lips moved just a little. "Thank you, Helen," he said, taking the coffee mug. His fingers brushed hers for a second. She pulled her hand back quickly, heart jumping. He looked away at once. Silence fell for a brief moment, thick and strange. Then Helen cleared her throat. "Do you need me to print the figures again for the board meeting, sir?" "Yes," he said. "And Helen?" "Sir? Make sure only you handle my personal schedule. I don't want anyone else touching it." She nodded. "Yes, sir." He watched her as she walked out. His chest felt tight. Does she really care about this work, he wondered. Or is it just the money? The position? The fact that I'm Emeka Okafor? Later that day, during lunch break, Emeka walked past the small staff canteen. He rarely went there, but he was on a call and decided to use the back stairs. As he reached the entrance, he heard voices. "She's lucky, Abeg," one of the junior staff said. "To be PA to a billionaire like that. If na me, I no fit leave that job. Oh, salary go day, connections go day, flights go day." Another voice laughed. "You think she's there because of work? Abeg, she's enjoying life, soft life. See the phone she's using. See the clothes. Even the way Oga looks at her sometimes." Emeka stopped. They were talking about Helen. He felt something heavy drop inside him. He didn't step in. He stayed by the door, hidden, listening even though he hated himself for it. "I'm telling you," the first voice continued. "If they sack her today, she go cry not because of the work, but because she's leaving that billionaire lifestyle." The words stung. Emeka walked away quietly, his jaw tight. He knew office gossip was often wrong. But the seed was already planted. If I was not rich, he thought bitterly, would she still stay so loyal? Would she still come early? Would she still care this much? That night, after everyone had gone, Emeka sat alone in his office. The city lights blinked outside. His laptop screen glowed with numbers and charts, but his eyes were on the door where Helen usually stood. His mind went back to the many times she stayed late to help him, the way she would remind him to eat, the way she would say, "Sir, please rest. Your health is important," when he tried to work all night. He remembered the day she refused an envelope from a vendor. "We don't collect bribe here, sir," she had said calmly. At least, not on my table. He had been proud of her that day. So why was he doubting her now? Because of some silly lunchtime gossip? He ran a hand over his face. "I need to know the truth," he thought. If she is here for money, or for me as a person. A wild idea entered his mind. What if he tested her? What if he made her think she was fired? Just to see her true heart? No, he told himself at first, that's too much. But the thought did not leave. Slowly, he picked up his phone and called HR. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "I want a fake termination letter for my PA. But listen, this is only a test. No record, no real sack. Just follow my instruction." The HR manager was confused, but afraid to argue. "Okay, sir, we will prepare it." Emeka ended the call. His chest felt heavy. His eyes were tired. "Forgive me if I'm wrong, Helen," he whispered to the empty room. "But I must know." The next day came too quickly. Helen came early as usual. She arranged his files. She smiled at him. She did everything right. But Emeka's heart was not at peace. At 11 a, He sent her a message. Come to my office, alone. She walked in with her small notepad, ready to write. Sir, do you need... Close the door, he said. She closed it, confused. He picked up the brown file. Inside it was the letter from HR. Fake. But it looked real. He stared at her for a long moment, fighting himself, then finally said the words, Helen, I got you fired. Her world crashed. Her knees felt weak. Her fingers went cold. She looked at him like he had just pushed her off a high building. Fired? She whispered. Yes, he said, forcing his face to stay hard. Today is your last day. The first tear escaped her eye. Emeka saw it and felt an invisible knife cut through his chest. But he stayed silent. She wiped her face, breathing fast, then looked at him with a broken, honest gaze. Sir, she began softly, voice heavy with pain. I don't work here because of the money. She swallowed, her heart in her throat. Emeka leaned forward, eyes fixed on her, scared of what she would say next. Her next words were about to change everything, and then someone knocked loudly on the door. The knock came again, harder this time. Bam, bam. Helen quickly wiped her eyes and stepped aside, embarrassed. Emeka's heart jumped in confusion and frustration. This was not the moment he wanted anyone breaking in. He was seconds away from hearing the truth, her truth, the words he didn't even know he had been waiting for. He cleared his throat and forced his voice to sound normal. Yes? Come in. The door opened slowly, and Mr. Adams, the HR manager, stepped inside with a nervous smile. He held a folder in his hand and looked like someone carrying a secret he didn't want to drop. Good morning, sir, he said, eyes darting between Emeka and Helen. You sent for me earlier. I have the documents you requested. Helen froze. Documents? For her firing? Was this really happening? Emeka clenched his teeth. He didn't want this man here right now. Not when Helen was on the edge of revealing something so important. But Adams was already stepping forward. Sir, here is the official termination. Give it to me and leave. Emeka cut in sharply. Mr. Adams flinched at the tone, quickly handed the file over, and hurried out. The door closed. Silence returned. A heavy silence, the kind that makes the air feel thick. Helen stood still, tears drying on her cheeks. Emeka held the folder in his hand, but he couldn't bring himself to open it. He didn't even look at it. He only looked at her. Helen, he said softly, the hardness in his voice melting away. You were saying something. Her chest rose and fell quickly. She looked down at her fingers, twisting them nervously. I don't know if I should say it anymore, she whispered. Please. His voice was quiet now. Finish what you started to say. She swallowed, eyes glossy again. I don't work here because of the money, she said. And I don't stay because of the benefits or the flights or the phone or the salary. He took a slow step closer. Then why? He asked, almost afraid of the answer. She lifted her head and her eyes met his brown, soft, honest. There was no makeup, no fake smile, no pretending, only truth. I stay here because I like you, sir. Emeka felt his chest shift, like something heavy had been lifted off it. His fingers loosened. His breath caught for a moment. He had imagined this moment many times, but now that it was happening, it felt unreal. You like me? He repeated, voice barely above a whisper. Helen nodded quickly and looked away, cheeks hot, embarrassed. I know it's wrong, she said in a small voice. I know you're my boss. I know people will talk. I know I shouldn't say it. But I had to tell you because, if you really want me to leave today, then I didn't want to leave with a lie in my heart. Emeka felt something inside him break something hard, something he had built around himself for years. He took a step toward her, but Helen stepped back, and her next words hit him deeper than anything he had ever heard in his life. But if you want me gone, I will go. I don't want to make your life difficult. He blinked fast. Gone? She would leave? Just like that? A sudden panic rose in his chest. He didn't expect that. He didn't expect it to hurt so much. This was supposed to be a simple test, a small trick to reveal the truth. But now, he realized he wasn't prepared for what that truth meant. Helen, no, he said softly. You don't have to go. She shook her head, eyes filling with tears again. But you fired me. He exhaled deeply, fighting the urge to tell her right there and then that it was all fake, that he never wanted her gone, that he only wanted to see whether she valued him, the man, not the billionaire. He wanted to tell her everything, but before he could speak, the office phone rang loudly, cutting through the moment. Helen quickly wiped her face and reached for it on instinct. Matrix Holdings. Good morning. But Emeka raised a hand. Leave it. Let it ring. She froze again. Her heart beat loudly in her ears. He never ignored calls. Never. He turned fully toward her. Helen, he said quietly, I need to ask you something. She nodded slowly. If I was not rich, he said, if I didn't have money, if I wasn't a CEO, would you still feel the same way? Her eyes widened. Sir, answer me honestly, he said. Please. She took a breath and looked at him. Really looked at him. The man, not the suit. The person, not the billionaire. Her voice trembled as she answered. If you were a teacher, a driver, a cleaner, even a bus conductor on the road, I would still like you, maybe even more. Emeka's heart nearly stopped. I don't care about your money, she whispered. I care about your heart. His throat grew tight, but just when he was about to speak, bam, the door burst open again. This time it wasn't HR. It was Stella, the head of public relations, out of breath and panicking. Sir, emergency, it's urgent. Helen quickly stepped away from Emeka, wiping her face so Stella wouldn't see she'd been crying. Emeka turned sharply. What is it now? Stella gulped. Sir, the investors from Dubai. They're here. What? Emeka frowned. Their meeting is tomorrow. They said they want to see you now, Stella said. They're waiting in the conference room and they're not in a good mood. Emeka's jaw tightened. This was bad. Very bad. The Dubai investors were some of their biggest partners. They were strict, serious, and easily offended. They expected perfection in business and punctuality. A sudden visit meant trouble. He turned to Helen, and for the first time, he saw fear not for her job, but for him. Sir, she said quickly, I can prepare the meeting in 10 minutes. I'll get the reports, the projections, the files. No, Stella interrupted rudely. Her eyes darted to Helen with dislike. Sir, she said to Emeka, don't forget that HR just sent word about her termination. She shouldn't be involved in this meeting. She's technically no longer staff. Helen froze. Emeka's eyes went dark with anger. He hated office gossip. He hated people spreading things before he announced them. And he especially hated the tone Stella used to talk about Helen. He stepped forward, voice cold. Who told you she's terminated? Stella blinked. Sir, HR sent a message to all department heads. Emeka cut her off. That message was not supposed to be shared, he said sharply. And it is also not final. Helen gasped quietly. Stella swallowed, suddenly unsure. Sir, should we remove her from the system? No, Emeka said. No one touches her file until I say so. Something changed in Stella's face. She suddenly realized there was something deeper happening in this room. She stepped back slightly. Sir, the investors are still waiting. Emeka turned to Helen again. Her eyes were shiny, confused, hopeful, scared all at once. Come with me, he said softly. She blinked. Sir? We're going to handle the investors together, Emeka said, like we always do. But I thought you're still my PA, he said firmly. And I still need you. He didn't just mean for the meeting. He meant for everything. Helen's breath caught. Slowly, she nodded. Yes, sir. He picked up his laptop and walked toward the door. She followed closely behind him, but as they stepped out into the corridor, something happened. A voice from the far end of the hallway shouted, Sir, there's a problem in the conference room. One of the investors is angry and threatening to walk out. Helen gasped. Emeka stopped walking. This was turning into a disaster, and he didn't know that the chaos in that room would reveal another secret, one that would change everything for both of them. The hallway felt hotter than usual as Emeka and Helen rushed toward the conference room. Workers stood in small clusters, whispering as they passed. Everyone knew the Dubai investors were powerful. Everyone also knew that if they walked away, the company's biggest expansion plan could collapse. The entire building held its breath. At the doorway of the conference room, a frightened junior staff member blocked the path. Sir, please don't enter yet, he stammered. "One of the investors is shouting. He said he wants to leave and never work with us again." Helen felt her heart jump. She glanced at Emeka. His jaw tightened, but his eyes were steady. This was the version of him she respected the most, the calm leader who never shook, even when the ground was breaking under him. "Open the door," Emeka said firmly. The staff member obeyed immediately. The door swung open, and the noise hit them like a slap. Inside the room, 6 foreign investors sat around the long table, but the man standing, a tall, bald one with a thick beard, was the loudest. His face was red with anger, and his hand slammed the table so hard the water bottles rattled. "This is unprofessional," he shouted. "We traveled all the way from Dubai, and this is how your company treats us. We asked for last year's financial breakdown, and no one here can provide it." Helen's stomach dropped. She knew exactly what document he was talking about. It was the file she had been working on earlier that morning, the one she left half-finished because Emeka called her to his office to fire her. Her fingers trembled slightly. She had failed him. The bald investor continued shouting, "If your management is this disorganized, why should we trust your company with a joint project worth millions?" Other investors nodded angrily. Emeka stepped forward, eyes focused like a knife blade. "Gentlemen," he said calmly, "there must be a misunderstanding. Allow me a moment to provide everything you need." "A moment," the bald man snapped. "We have been waiting for 40 minutes. The room fell silent. All eyes were on Emeka. Helen watched him, afraid for him, afraid for the company, afraid that this disaster would make him rethink keeping her. She could feel that sting in her chest, the sting of guilt. "This is my fault. If I hadn't been crying in his office, if I hadn't broken down, I could have prepared this file." But before her thoughts could crush her, Emeka spoke. "I take full responsibility," he said quietly. Helen's eyes widened. He wasn't blaming the staff. He wasn't blaming the miscommunication. He wasn't blaming the last-minute visit. He was taking the fall. The room softened slightly. Emeka turned his head a little. "Helen," he said, without looking fully at her, "please bring me the financial breakdown from last year. It should be in the blue folder on my table." She nodded and hurried out of the room. Her heels clicked loudly on the floor as she ran back to his office. Her hands shook as she searched the table. "Blue folder? Blue folder?" she whispered. Then her breath caught. The folder wasn't on the table. She checked under files, on the cabinet, behind the laptop stand. Nothing. Her chest tightened. No, this can't be happening. She stepped back, trying to think clearly. Emeka always kept backup copies. If the file wasn't here, then she opened the drawer. There it was, the blue folder. She grabbed it and ran out of the office so quickly she almost bumped into someone entering the corridor. It was Stella, the PR head who disliked her. But today, Stella's face looked different, nervous, worried. Helen rushed past her without speaking. Stella turned her head slowly and watched her leave. Then a sly smile appeared on her face. But Helen didn't see it. Back in the conference room, the atmosphere was still tense. The bald investor leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers impatiently. "Your team seems very inexperienced," he muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Emeka ignored the comment. But inside him, something shifted, a protective fire. He was angry. First, because this man was disrespecting his company. Second, because he was indirectly insulting Helen, the same Helen who had kept this company organized for years. Moments later, Helen rushed in, slightly out of breath, holding the blue folder. "Here it is, sir," she said softly. He took it from her, his fingers brushing against hers for a second long enough to make her heart jump. "Good job," he whispered. She lowered her eyes to hide the blush rising in her cheeks. Emeka opened the folder and spread the documents on the table. The investors leaned forward, scrutinizing the papers. The bald man flipped through quickly. He frowned again. "These charts are incomplete," he barked. Helen froze. Incomplete? Impossible. She had prepared them fully. She knew she had. She memorized every number. She checked everything twice. Emeka frowned too. He scanned the pages. To his shock, page 7 was missing. Page 12 was blank. Page 15 had incorrect numbers. This wasn't Helen's work. Someone had switched the documents. Emeka looked at her sharply, but not with anger, only confusion. "Helen, did you prepare this?" "Ah, yes, sir," she said, voice trembling. "But I didn't." This is not how I left it. The bald man stood up again. This is a waste of our time. If you cannot organize your own reports, how can we trust you to manage a partnership? He reached for his suitcase. We are leaving. The other investors began to stand as well. Helen's heart dropped. This is it. This is the end. The company will lose the deal because of me. Emeka will blame me. He will sack me for real. Her vision blurred with tears she tried to hold back. But then, Emeka stepped in front of the investors, blocking their exit. You're not leaving, he said. His voice was quiet. Too quiet. Dangerously quiet. The room stopped moving. Even the bald man paused, clearly surprised by the sudden boldness. Emeka straightened his shoulders. You came here to invest in a company, he said. A company run by humans. Humans make mistakes. But that does not mean we are incompetent. The bald man scoffed. Mistakes in millions of dollars. That is not acceptable. Then listen carefully, Emeka said, leaning forward just slightly. This was not a mistake from the company. Someone tampered with the documents. The entire room gasped. Helen's mouth opened in shock. The investors exchanged glances. The bald man frowned. Tampered? By who? Emeka didn't answer. Not yet. But his eyes slowly turned to one person in the room. Stella. She had slipped into the conference room quietly while Helen fetched the files, pretending to stand among the staff gathering near the wall. Now, under Emeka's gaze, she stiffened. Stella, he said softly, please step forward. She froze. Everyone turned to look at her. Helen felt her stomach twist. Was this real? Did Stella do something? Stella forced a smile. Yes, sir? She said, stepping a little forward. Where were you 10 minutes ago? Emeka asked calmly. Stella blinked fast. 10 minutes ago? I was in my office. Emeka's eyes narrowed. Helen, he said, was the folder exactly where you left it this morning? Helen hesitated, remembering clearly. No, sir. I found it inside your drawer. I never moved it there. Murmurs filled the room. Emeka turned back to Stella. Would you like to explain how the folder moved from my desk to my drawer? Stella's face grew pale. I don't know. And, Emeka continued, would you also like to explain why the documents were altered? Stella's lips trembled. The bald investor crossed his arms. Are you saying this woman sabotaged your meeting? Stella panicked. No, I didn't, I would never. But she was shaking. Her eyes darted to Helen with a flash of jealousy, then guilt. Suddenly, it all made sense. Stella had overheard the HR message. She thought Helen was being fired. She wanted to ruin her completely. Emeka exhaled slowly, and then he spoke the words that made Helen's heart shake. This meeting is over, he said. But not because the investors are leaving. Everyone went silent. It's over, Emeka continued. Because someone in this room tried to destroy my company and attack someone I care about. Helen gasped softly. Someone he cared about? Before she could understand what he meant, Emeka pointed at Stella. You, he said, voice cold, are suspended immediately. Stella's eyes filled with tears. No, sir, please. Security, Emeka said quietly. 2 guards stepped forward. Stella broke down, shaking her head, begging as they led her out. But Emeka wasn't watching her anymore. He was looking at Helen, and the look in his eyes. It wasn't the look of a boss. It wasn't the look of a billionaire. It was something deeper, something human, something dangerous, something that made Helen's heart stop. But before either of them could speak, the bald investor stepped forward. Mr. Emeka, he said slowly, after what we just witnessed, we are willing to stay. Emeka turned to him, surprised. We want to see how you solve this issue, the man continued. Your leadership is impressive. Helen let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The deal was not dead. The company was safe. Emeka nodded once. Thank you. The investors sat back down. But Helen stood frozen. Because she knew something had changed. Not just in the meeting, not just in the company, but between her and Emeka. His test was no longer the biggest problem. Now, something bigger was happening. Something neither of them expected. And in the next chapter, it will break everything open. The rest of the meeting felt like walking on a thin rope. But somehow, they made it to the other side. After Stella was taken out, Emeka asked Helen to connect the projector. She moved with quiet speed, hands steady now that she had something to do. She plugged in his laptop, opened the backup file from the cloud, and brought up the correct figures. "Here, sir," she said softly. Emeka nodded. "Thank you." For the next 40 minutes, he spoke with calm power. He walked the investors through every chart. Profits, losses, risks, plans. Helen stood close by, passing documents, highlighting pages, answering small questions they threw at her. At one point, the bald investor looked at her and asked, "Who prepared this?" Helen swallowed. "I did, sir." He watched her for a moment, then gave the smallest nod. No smile, but less anger. That tiny nod felt like a big breath of air. By the time the meeting ended, the mood in the room had changed. "We will not cancel the partnership," the bald investor said slowly, standing up. "But we expect tighter control next time." "You have my word," Emeka replied. Hands were shaken, agreements were repeated. The storm calmed. When the investors finally left, the room emptied quickly. Staff started picking up empty bottles and scattered papers. Helen stood in one corner, holding her notepad, her heart finally slowing down. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt confused. She had told her boss she liked him. He had defended her in front of everyone. He had said someone tried to destroy someone I care about. Was she really the person he meant? Or was he just talking like a good leader? Her mind was spinning. "Everyone, you can go back to work," Emeka said to the remaining staff. "I want to speak to Helen alone." A few people exchanged looks. Office gossip already had enough fuel to cook 10 pots of jollof, but they obeyed. Soon, it was just the two of them in the big conference room. The door closed. Silence. Helen stared down at her notepad. Emeka stared at the table for a moment, then slowly turned to face her. "Helen," he said quietly, "are you okay?" She bit her lower lip. "Yes, sir." "You're lying," he replied gently. Her throat tightened. He had done it again, seen through her like glass. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I'm just tired," she whispered. "It has been a long day." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I'm sorry," he said. She looked up, surprised. "For what, sir?" "For all of it," he replied. "For the stress, for the insult from the investor, for Stella's behavior, for making you cry in my office." She swallowed slowly. There it was. The moment was standing between them like a third person. She took a soft breath. "Sir, did you mean it? When you said I was fired?" He looked at her for a long time. "No," he said honestly. "I didn't." Her brows pulled together. "Then why did you say it?" she asked quietly. He looked away, shame touching his face. "Because I was afraid," he said. She frowned. "Afraid of what? You're not someone who's easily scared." He let out a bitter little laugh. "Money can't remove fear," he said. "It just hides it better." She waited. He spoke again. "Helen, I've seen people pretend to love me all my life," he said. "They smile at me, but they are really smiling at my bank account, at my cars, at my name." He turned his gaze back to her. "And then you came." Her heart skipped. "You didn't flirt. You didn't rush close. You didn't ask for favors," he continued. "You just worked, and cared, and stayed loyal." His voice softened. "And I started to like you." She felt the world pause for a second. He had said it. He liked her. But the sweetness of those words didn't fully land. Because something else was still standing between them, the test. "So you tested me?" she asked, hurt slowly rising in her chest. "With my job? With my life?" He winced. "I wanted to see if you were here for the salary or for something more," he said. "I knew it was wrong even as I planned it. But I did it anyway, because I needed the answer." She clenched her fingers around her notepad. "And now?" she asked, voice quiet. "Do you have your answer?" He nodded once. "Yes." Her eyes shone with tears. "Then why does it still hurt?" she whispered. He opened his mouth to reply, but a soft knock came at the door. "Come in," he said, frustrated. The door opened just a little. Mr. Adams, the HR manager, peeked in again. "Sir, sorry to disturb you," he said. "You asked me to send the termination letter to your email for review. I just wanted to confirm if I should still process it as planned or—" He stopped. His eyes darted from Emeka to Helen, and he suddenly realized he had walked into something delicate. Helen's heart went cold. "Termination letter?" she repeated quietly. She turned slowly to look at Emeka, his face drained of color. Helen, wait. She stepped away from him. So it's true, she said, voice shaking. It wasn't just a joke. There was a real letter. You really wanted to fire me just to test me. Helen, listen, he began. No, she said, tears finally spilling over. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe you said it in anger. But you called HR. You asked them to write it. You planned everything. The pain in her voice cut straight through him. Mr. Adams stammered. I'll just step out. Leave, Emeka said quietly. Eyes still on Helen. The HR manager slipped out and shut the door. Emeka took a careful step toward Helen. She stepped back again. I trusted you, she whispered. More than any boss I ever had. I defended you when people called you proud. I stayed late. I answered calls at midnight. I turned down other job offers because I believed in you. Her chest rose and fell quickly. And you turned me into an experiment. He shook his head quickly, pain in his eyes. No, he said. That's not what You wanted to see if I loved your money, she said. So you played with my whole future. He felt like someone had punched him. I never wanted to hurt you, he said. I just didn't trust me, she finished quietly. The words hung in the air like smoke. He couldn't deny it. Yes, he said, voice low. I didn't trust you. Not at first. I was scared. But when you cried in my office, when you told me you liked me, I realized I had made a terrible mistake. She wiped her face angrily. You should have told me the truth right away, she said, instead of making HR share my termination news around the whole building. Do you know people are already looking at me like a problem? Like I'm the one causing drama. He closed his eyes for a moment, guilt heavy like a stone. I will fix it, he said. I will call a meeting. I will clear your name. This is not just about my name, she cut in, voice breaking. It's about my heart. Silence. He looked at her. She looked at him. Two people standing in a big room, but feeling like there was a deep ocean between them. She slowly reached for the ID card hanging around her neck. His chest tightened. Helen, what are you doing? He asked. She unclipped it, her fingers trembling. Maybe you should give this to someone you can trust without testing, she said, placing the ID card on the table. Someone you don't have to fire first before you believe. He felt fear rise suddenly. Real fear. Not the fear of losing a deal. The fear of losing her. No, he said, stepping forward. Keep it, please. I don't want a new PA. I don't want anyone else in your chair. I don't want anyone else bringing my coffee, or arranging my schedule, or reminding me to rest, or... His voice cracked. She blinked, surprised. He swallowed hard. I don't just want you as my PA, Helen, he said quietly. I want you... in my life. Her heart stopped. His eyes were raw now. No billionaire shield. No cold CEO face. Just a man broken by his own mistake. I like you, he said, finally letting the words fall. Not as staff. Not as loyal worker. As a woman. As a person. I've liked you for a long time. I was just too scared to say it. Tears slid down her cheeks. Then why didn't you just tell me? She whispered. Because I thought you would only say it back because of who I am on paper, he said. Not who I am inside. He took a slow breath. But when you said, even if you were a conductor, I would still like you. Something inside me broke. He looked at her with eyes full of regret. I'm sorry I tested you, he said. I'm sorry I hurt you. If you leave now, I will understand. But if you stay, I promise I will spend every day proving that I trust you, and that I don't want to lose you. The room was so quiet, they could hear their own breathing. Helen stared at him, her heart torn between anger and love, pain and hope. Her fingers hovered over the ID card on the table. One small move could change everything. If she picked it up, she was choosing to stay in his company, in his life, in this messy, risky, beautiful new story. If she walked away, she was choosing her pride and leaving him behind with his regret. Her hand trembled. She took one tiny step toward the card. Ding! The conference room screen suddenly lit up with an incoming call notification. Board emergency meeting. Join now. Under it, a small text appeared. Topic: allegation of unethical relationship between CEO and PA. Helen and Emeka froze. Their eyes widened. The board had found out. About her. About him. About them. And now, the whole company was about to watch. The conference room screen glowed like a warning flame. Board emergency meeting. Join now. Topic: allegation of unethical relationship between CEO and PA. Helen covered her mouth with her hand. Emeka's chest tightened. His heart began to pound so loudly he could hear it in his ears. Someone had reported them. Someone wanted to destroy him. Or destroy her. Or both. The blinking notification filled the room with heavy tension. Helen, he said quietly. Don't panic. But she already was. Her hands trembled. Her breathing hitched. Sir, this is bad, she whispered. They think we're having something inappropriate. They think you fired me because of… No. His voice sharpened. Someone is manipulating this. He clenched his jaw. He already knew who had planted the rumor. Stella. Suspended, humiliated, angry, and desperate. Helen grabbed the edge of the table for support. The board. They could force you to step down. Yes, Emeka said softly. And they could fire me, she whispered. Yes, he repeated. A tear slid down her cheek. Sir, maybe I should just walk away, she said, voice breaking. If I leave quietly, maybe they'll leave you alone. Maybe the board will stop all this. No. Emeka took a step toward her, shaking his head. Don't say that. But it's my fault, she cried. I liked you. I admitted it. I let myself feel something, and now… It's not your fault, he said firmly. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who crossed the line first with that stupid test. And now you're paying for it. She shook her head weakly. No. I brought this on you. He reached out slowly and took her hands in his. Helen, he whispered, listen to me. I will never let them blame you. Whatever happens in that meeting, I will protect you, even if I lose everything. Her breath caught. Lose everything? His company? His name? His power? Just to protect her? Her tears came harder. But before she could speak, the screen pinged again. Meeting starts in 2 minutes. They had no time left. Emeka squeezed her hands once, then gently let go. Sit beside me, he said. Sir, I don't think… Helen. His voice was soft but strong. I want you beside me. She swallowed hard and nodded. They sat down together, side by side, in front of the glowing screen. The clock hit 0. The meeting began. 8 faces appeared on the screen, serious, older, powerful men and women who controlled the company's direction. No smiles. No warm greetings. Mr. Emeka, Chairman Alade said stiffly, we just received troubling information. Emeka nodded once. I'm aware. Helen sat quietly, hands on her lap, trying not to shake. The chairman continued. We have been informed that you dismissed your personal assistant after a private emotional conflict. Helen bowed her head in shame. The chairman added, and that the PA confessed love for you in your office, leading to unprofessional decisions and poor performance today. Helen gasped softly. This was worse than she imagined. Someone had exaggerated everything. Another board member leaned forward. We also learned that critical documents were mishandled in a major investor meeting because of your relationship. Helen looked at Emeka with tears in her eyes. They were twisting everything. Emeka's jaw flexed. Let me make something clear, he said calmly. Helen is not responsible for the document problem. Someone sabotaged her work. Yes, we heard that claim, another board member said dryly. But evidence is unclear. It was Stella, Emeka said. I suspended her today for misconduct. One of the board members smirked. Convenient timing, don't you think? Helen clenched her fists. Why were they so eager to attack her boss? Chairman Alade sighed. Mr. Emeka, your leadership has been strong for 5 years. But emotions cloud judgment. We need to know the truth. He looked directly at Helen. Helen, he said. Did you confess feelings for him in the office? She froze. Emeka turned sharply. Helen, don't answer that. But she swallowed, lifted her eyes, and spoke softly. Yes, I did. A wave of murmurs filled the speakers. Helen continued, voice trembling. But I confessed because he fired me. And I thought I was leaving forever. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't try to use my job. I didn't expect anything in return. I just didn't want to leave with a lie. The board stared coldly. And did you two have any romantic involvement outside work? No, Helen cried. Never, Emeka added firmly. Absolutely not. The chairman nodded slowly, then explained the termination. Emeka inhaled deeply. This was the moment. Everyone leaned closer. He had two choices: lie and save himself, tell the truth and risk everything. He chose truth. I tested her, he said quietly. The board members froze. Emeka continued. I pretended to fire her to see if she was loyal to the job or the money. Gasps filled the call. Emeka, the chairman scolded. That is highly unethical. Helen's chest tightened with pain. He wasn't protecting himself. He was confessing everything. Why would you do such a thing? Another board member demanded. Emeka looked down for a moment, then lifted his eyes again. Because I liked her, he said simply. Silence. Pure silence. Helen turned to him slowly, shocked. He wasn't hiding it. He wasn't denying it. He wasn't ashamed. He admitted it in front of everyone. I liked her, he repeated, voice steady. But I didn't want someone close to me just because of my money. I needed to know if her heart was real. Chairman Alade shook his head. So you tested her integrity by threatening her job? That is unacceptable, Emeka. I know, Emeka said softly. It was wrong. And I regret it. Helen blinked fast. Her heart broke for him. The chairman sighed. This is a big issue, Emeka. The board must decide whether you should face disciplinary actions or even be removed from your role. Helen gasped in horror. No, please, she cried. Don't punish him for trying to protect himself. He is a good man. He didn't hurt me. I misunderstood him. Please don't take his company away because of me. Her voice cracked into tears. The board members were stunned. Chairman Alade looked at her for a long moment. You care for him that much? He asked. Helen nodded, tears flowing silently. I do, truly, but I don't want to lose my job. I don't want him punished. I don't want this company destroyed. Please, sir, find another way. The board whispered among themselves. Finally, the chairman spoke. Very well. After deliberation, the board has a decision. Helen held her breath. Emeka stared straight ahead. The chairman continued. Mr. Emeka will not be removed as CEO. Helen let out a shaky sigh of relief. But, the chairman added, he must undergo leadership review and counseling. The PA may keep her job, but she must be reassigned to a different department. No more direct reporting. Helen's heart sank. No longer his PA. No more office beside his. No more quiet mornings preparing his coffee. No more gentle reminders. No more closeness. She felt a strange tear slide down her cheek, one made of both relief and heartbreak. The meeting ended. The screen went dark. The room felt too quiet. Helen wiped her face. Sir, I'll start packing my desk, she whispered. No, Emeka said, stepping closer. Sir, it's the board's rule. He shook his head. You don't understand, he said softly. I don't want you to leave my office because the board said so. And I don't want you to stay because of your job. He gently touched her chin and lifted her face to his. I want you in my life because you choose me, he said. Not because you work for me. Her chest trembled. And I choose you, she whispered. He exhaled sharply, relief washing over him. I still want to fix things between us, he said. Not as boss and PA, but as two people who like each other. Her eyes softened. So, what happens now? She asked quietly. He smiled faintly for the first time all day. Now, we start again. Honestly, this time. She smiled through her tears. Someone knocked on the door gently. It was Mr. Adams, holding a new letter this time, not a termination. A transfer. A beginning. Helen took the envelope. Before opening it, she looked up at Emeka one last time. Thank you for choosing the truth, she said. And thank you, he replied, for choosing me even when I didn't deserve it. Their hearts understood each other, even if the world didn't. Moral lesson. Love should never be built on fear, tests, or secrets. Real love grows when there is honesty, trust, and the bravery to say the truth, no matter how scary it is. And in the end, the relationship you protect with truth will always be stronger than the one you hide with lies. Thank you for watching. Let us know where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.